Hey, this is Levi and you are here to ace your learning. Ready? Let's go. This is the math you need for exams but probably forgot. And in this video, we'll be covering the factoring of quadratics with coefficients. Now, if you've ever told yourself that you cannot do math, I'm telling you right now, the fact that you are watching this video means you are working on being able to do it. So great job, keep going. Quick recap. Try this question before we get into the rest of the video, just to see where you are at. Pause the video, give it a try. So, did you get it? If you did, keep watching this video. Great stuff. If you didn't, no worries. Just go back and watch part 1 and 2 before you watch this video. Part 1 and 2 is where you need to start. Alrighty, now that we're ready, let's get into it. Our goal is to end up with two brackets that, when you multiply them, equals the original expression. Now, we're going to follow exactly the same steps to solve this as we did in the previous videos, except that there are a few things you need to do before you can tackle it with the steps we already learned. The first one is to look at the coefficient of the square. Now, what is a coefficient again? Simply put, it is the number that precedes or comes before the variable. The squared variable is g squared, so our coefficient is going to be 2. Next, if there's a common factor, and if 2 is that common factor, you're going to divide the whole expression by it to remove the 2 from the coefficient of g squared. Now, to do that, simply divide each and every single term by that 2. Once you've done that, you can just rewrite your expression as g squared minus 32 divided by 2 is 16, and plus 128 divided by 2 gives you 64. Now, let's see, is there still a coefficient of the squared term? There isn't. So now we're left with exactly the same steps to follow as we did before, because there's no longer a coefficient. So we can just draw out two wide brackets, the g in front, and then go to step 2, which is to list the factor pairs of our constant value, 1 and 64, 2 and 32. And for example, if the number is not as simple to find the factors of, you can also just divide 64 by different numbers. If the number divides into whole numbers, in other words, without remainders, then it is indeed a factor. And if it doesn't, then it's not a factor. So through doing that, I also found 4 and 16 and 8 and 8 as pairs of factors. Now we look at the sign of the constant. It's a plus sign, which means the signs in the bracket are going to be the same. And also we need to add a pair of factors until we get 16. So which of these pairs of factors equals 16 when you add them? It's going to be 8 plus 8 that gives you 16. Now we need to write the 8 down at the ends of each of these brackets. And the plus sign tells us that the sign between the brackets is going to be the same, and it's going to be the sign of the middle term, a minus sign. So we have g minus 8, two brackets of g minus 8, and that is our final answer. Again, if you want to check your final answer, just multiply them out again and make sure that your multiplied out answer equals your original expression. And that's it. In this example, our goal remains the same. Also have a look at our steps. They are also exactly the same as the previous ones. So now though, have a look. Is there a common factor in this example? Is there a common factor? There isn't. So because there isn't a common factor, we can't just divide everything to cancel out this coefficient of the squared variable. Instead, we need to follow some other steps. Let's start at the top and start factorizing this one by writing out our equal to sign and two wide open brackets. Now, instead of dividing everything by 4, we need to find factor pairs for the first and the last terms. This means we need to find the factor pairs of 4 as well as the factor pairs of 63. So let's get to that. Factor pairs of 4, they're going to be 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. And then for numbers like 63 that are a bit bigger, there are certain ways that are easier to find the factor pairs of these numbers, and we'll go over that in another video. For now, stick to your multiplication tables as well as any methods that you do currently know to find your factors. Great. Now, we're going to list the variables without the square and keep a little space in front of it because that is where our coefficient of the squared term is going to go. And then we need to start filling in some values. Now, whenever there is a coefficient of the squared term, you're going to need to do a lot more trial and error to find these brackets. This means just plugging in different pairs of factors and trying to find ones that work. So let's just start with 2 and 2, nice even numbers. And then in the last brackets, I'm going to go with the smallest ones and see if that works. So I'm writing them in gray, that represents pencil. Then if we look at our signs, remember that the bracket with the biggest value gets the sign of the middle term, and the sign of the middle term is a plus sign. So the bracket with the biggest values in it is the 2 and the 2t and the 9. So that's going to get the plus sign, and the other bracket will get the negative sign. Okay, so these are just two brackets that we've plugged values and factor pairs into. Let's multiply them out and see if we get the same value as our original expression. 2t times 2t, that's 4t squared. 2t times 9, that's going to be 18t. Then we have minus 7 2t, and we have minus 7 times the 9, minus 63. Then if we combine our middle terms, we'll be left with plus 4t. And there you have it. This was a great trial and error one. We have it because our brackets, when we multiply them out, equals our original expression. Therefore, our brackets, in this case, are correct. If they weren't, all you'd have to do is substitute in different pairs of factors and then solve it again. Quick recap. You're going to look at the coefficient of the square, and if there is a lowest common factor, you divide the whole expression by it to get rid of that value in front of the squared variable. If there is no lowest common factor, then you need to find factor pairs for the first and last terms. In other words, the constant value and the coefficient of the squared variable. Next, you need to find two brackets, which is exactly the same as before, and then you just carry on the next of the steps. You may need to use some trial and error to do this, so just see how it goes. Now it's your turn. Try and factorize the following. So how'd you do? Remember to rewind and rewatch this video until you understand your answers. I really hope that you found this video helpful, and if you did, please share it on. Also, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any new uploads from me. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, stay safe and take care.